Hello and welcome to the Ice Guys. This is the show that takes you into the world of the National Hockey League. Every game, every day, from a betting perspective. With pro sports handicappers, Ian Cameron, Alex B. Smith, and various guests from the world of hockey and sports betting. And now, here's your host, Ian Cameron.
Welcome to the Ice Guys, the final show of 2023, Sunday, December 31st. It is otherwise known as New Year's Eve. Ian Cameron and the returning Alex B. Smith, back from Chicago, back in St. Paul, back in Minnesota, and back on the Ice Guys show. Alex, how was the return home to Chicago? How's mom? How was Christmas? How was all the family gathering at Christmas time?
Yeah, Chicago was fantastic. The weather was nice. It was like in the 50s for Christmas Day and Christmas Eve, so you can't ask for anything more than that. We got rain instead of snow. So I know other people weren't happy. They wanted a white Christmas, but when you have to travel and move around a lot, a little bit of rain and some warm weather was perfectly nice. So that was great. Mom's doing well. She was so close. We were talking about it before we went on air, hitting the bargain bin play on her birthday with Nick Foligno. And so the funny story, obviously we didn't get to talk about it, but I just asked my mom, we were watching the games while I was in town. And I said, Mom, look at the lineup. I said, do you think anybody here, pick somebody here you think is going to score? She went Connor Bedard. Naturally, she pick him every game. And then Nick Foligno. So I didn't mention anything about him moving up the line or what the price was or anything. I just asked just for straight names, and she gave me Nick Foligno. So we rolled with that at plus 400. And on that tying goal in that Chicago-Dallas game, he was right there in front of the net. He was in front of the net most of the night. So it was a great play by Mom. Unfortunately, didn't cash, but a lot of fun had with that. Just a lot of fun all over. Got my Connor Bedard jersey finally for Christmas as well. So it was a wonderful time had by all in the Windy City, and glad to be back here in St. Paul and getting ready for 2024.
Yeah, we absolutely are getting ready, and we've got a chance to say goodbye to 2023 with 9 games in the NHL here for New Year's Eve on this Sunday. So we're looking forward to that. We will recap Saturday's action. I appreciate those comments, Russell. I do. Ian, you nailed it last night, but we do have to calm down with that just a little bit. I nailed it with the props last night. Sides and totals were a disaster, unfortunately. It was a rough night for me with sides and totals. One of the worst nights of the season for me with those, honestly. Other than the draw with Washington and Nashville coming through, that's actually saved things a little bit. And because it's such a big plus, 340, 350 with that really helped. That minimized the damage with the sides and the totals. But I was frustrated that, with the Carolina game, I figured it was Carolina would win, and I didn't do money line. I went with just team total, and of course 3.5. They only score 3. So that was disappointing. And then, I said side and totals weren't great. And then I have to watch the LA Kings blow a 2-0 lead and lose. And once that got to a shootout, I'm like, we're done. Good luck trying to beat Edmonton in a shootout. That's going to be tough most nights with what they can throw out there. So but that was a great hockey game, even though it was tough to see the Kings ticket go down the drain there in that one. That's why those playoff revenge scenarios, they're not automatic victories anymore. And I know that was the first time the Kings played the Oilers since that playoff series, but I thought the price was cheap with LA. I still thought LA was the better team, and I thought in the first period they were outstanding, but they'll kind of let Edmonton back into that game. And actually, I thought Edmonton played an outstanding game. In the second and the third period, they had the puck more than the Kings did. There's no question about that. And this is becoming a thing now for LA. Edmonton's got their number. Regular season, playoffs, and you're going to have to hope like hell right now if you're the Edmonton Oilers that you don't get, or if you're the LA Kings, that Edmonton somehow they've dug themselves too big of a hole to get back into the playoffs, which I'm not so sure about anymore. Because they're 13-2 now in their last 15 games. Yeah. Yet they're still, 7 or 8 points out of the final playoff spot, which means that is how bad the start was for Edmonton. They've left themselves still so big of a hole to overcome. But, man, they've got the potential to put runs like this together and maybe get themselves back into it. But that's the thing. They can't let up. They've got to keep piling up the wins because there's still so much more work to do for them. But credit to them. They come back and they beat the Kings last night 3-2 in a shootout. But what else do we see? We start early in the day. It was Winnipeg, Minnesota, who will actually play the second half of their home and home today in Minnesota in an afternoon game. Winnipeg got the 4-2 win yesterday. What a great heavyweight scrap in that game, too, with Middleton and Dillon in that game. It was a really good fight between those two guys in that game. Nice win for the Jets, kind of a bounce back spot for them. After losing to Chicago on that brilliant Connor Bedard goal. earlier in the week. So a 4-2 win for the Jets there. The Buffalo Sabres, another reason why the sides and totals were tough for me is because I trusted the Buffalo Sabres once again. First period puck line, no good, but they do end up winning that game 3-2 in overtime against the Columbus Blue Jackets. A team that's not great on a back-to-back, and you need overtime to beat them at home and just get by after they embarrassed you when they played you in Buffalo a few weeks ago. Not a good sign for the Sabres, and we will get to them later in the show because they're also in action today on a back-to-back against the Ottawa Senators. Boston, 5-2 win against New Jersey. Man, the Devils had a great chance in that game, and then it just imploded on them. And I've had enough with Vitek Vanacek. I've had enough with the goaltending situation for New Jersey. He's not NHL caliber. Sorry, you don't have NHL caliber goalies on this hockey team right now. You certainly don't with Vitek Vanacek. And Akira Schmid's now bouncing around in the American Hockey League now at this point in time. So there's real issue right now with the most important position in the sport for a team that's got Stanley Cup aspirations this year, the New Jersey Devils. Not to mention the blue line is still making mistakes with the puck, breaking down left and right. Not what you want to see. That was just an ugly end of the second period, and it's what changed the game completely. It's why they lost the game. They had a 10-minute brutal lapse of defense and goaltending in the final 10 minutes of that period, and all of a sudden Boston's winning going away 5-2 last night against the Devils. However, the highlight of that game for me was the bargain bin special of the night, one of the better ones we've hit all year. Luke Hughes plus 750. You keep riding Luke Hughes right now. That's 3 straight games with a goal for him. They're not pricing him adequately. I know he's a defenseman. Defensemen to score a goal are always going to be better prices than forwards, but he can't be plus 750. He just can't. He scored in 3 straight games. He's shooting the puck a lot more. He's being more aggressive offensively, which we talked about yesterday. So it was a great snag there with the bargain bin special for me on Luke Hughes there. Very disappointing for Montreal. I thought it was a great spot, potential trap spot for Florida after beating Vegas, Tampa, and the Rangers on back-to-back games. But sure enough, look, Montreal didn't capitalize enough. Stolarz was pretty good. I got to give him his credit too. Really solid performance from him. Stymied Montreal other than one Cole Caulfield goal, and the Panthers get a nice 4-1 win. That's an impressive win to me for Florida because that was one of those classic trap spots that looked like coming from a mile away, and they avoided the trap, and they still had their eyes on the prize, the focus to take care of business against still what is an inferior team, and they were able to with that 4-1 win last night. What else did we see? We saw Pittsburgh 4-2 against St. Louis. The Drew Bannister magic is starting to wear off a little bit. That's 2 losses in a row for the Blues. So we'll have to see how that goes. But St. Louis kind of coming back down to earth. How about the New York Rangers? Gosh, what a nice win that was last night. 5-1 against Tampa Bay. Artemi Panarin cannot be stopped. What has he got now? 47, 48 points on the season. Just incredible. Way more than a point per game clip for him. Hat-trick last night. And as John Massey, we were talking a little bit in our DM, talking about Shesterkin. Shesterkin's looking like he's getting his form back again. He's seeing the puck better. He's on his angles. He seems like his fundamentals of goaltending, that his foundation is coming back. Like he's not swimming in the net anymore. He's not all over the place. He's very quiet. That's what Jamie McLennan on TSN always says. Very quiet in the net. That's what you want to see from your goaltender, not moving around too much. He looks like he's getting back to his top form again. It's been a nice little run of starts. He's strung together, multiple good starts in a row in net for the Rangers. So that's good to see Igor Shesterkin start to get it back. Carolina 3-2 against Toronto. I thought it was a pretty good effort from the Leafs. They outplayed the Hurricanes at times, but Pyotr Kochetkov was amazing last night. He was excellent. That was one of his best games of the entire season, bar none. And that's why it's enough with Carolina going to the old age senior citizens home with their goaltending. Knock it off with Anderson. He ain't coming back anytime soon anyway. He's on IR. Knock it off with Ronta. He stinks right now. He's been absolutely brutal lately. It's time to rock and roll with Pyotr Kochetkov and give him the number 1 gig right now for this hockey team. Simple as that. Whether it's Waddell making the call or Rod Brindamore making the call, it's time. Because he's earned it. He's your future. It ain't Aranta. Okay, that's not your future. This kid is Pyotr Kochetkov, and he plays with some emotion. He plays with some passion. He's willing to throw down every now and then. He's got a little burr in his saddle, too. He's got a little he's got a little competitive spirit and a little competitive nasty streak in him. I like that from my goaltender. So Kochetkov, great win last night for him. Great performance. 3-2 for Carolina in that one. Nashville with a 3-2 win in a shootout as they bounce back. Draw cashes for me there, which was good to see. And we already talked about the Oilers and the Kings. Alex, any thoughts from you on the massive slate we saw on Saturday?
Yeah, I mostly caught highlights last night because I was traveling and bouncing around. I did catch the early part of that Carolina-Toronto game, saw the Michael Bunting goal, which, I mean, that just made total sense going back to his old team and just been on a hot run right now. So I did catch part of that. But going back to what you said, and with that contest with Pyotr Kochetkov, he played outstanding. And like you said, they have to stop screwing around at this point. Like I said, we questioned it at the beginning of the year. Why even bother bringing back these two older injured goaltenders in Raanta and Anderson? And now they've found themselves out. And we said this in the preview that more than likely we could count on Anderson and Raanta at some point being hurt and out, and Kochetkov finally showing his worth. And that's what we got last night. I think this may be the coming of age start for Kochetkov, even though he's looked great the entire time in the AHL, the spots that he's had for the majority of the time. Being called up, he's looked solid. So they said Carolina, if they're serious about making a deep playoff run, then yeah, you have to commit to Kochetkov now, and I would make it public. Make it known that he's our number one goal. Like I said, even if there's confusion amongst who's making the call, because we've heard different things. Like I said, it's Waddell, it's upper management. Rod Brindamore should just take the reins right now and just say, you know what, I'm riding Kochetkov until he's hurt or he's fatigued. And if he does that, then that's going to settle everybody down in-house and then, like I said, get that team moving forward in the right direction, because they need solid goaltending. Like I said, when you're looking at, New York in that division, the Rangers getting Shesterkin and having Quick, you look at New Jersey, a team that you thought you'd be battling for in the Metro. They're having issues with goaltending. So you can't screw around. Put yourself in New York's position, not New Jersey's position. And the way you do that is by starting by saying Kochetkov's our guy moving forward, and not have any more circulations or anything of that nature.
I agree with that. Like I said, it's time. And he was just reaffirmed that last night with a very good performance. And as for Toronto, they have a very interesting road trip. They're going to California after last night's game. They play LA on Tuesday, Anaheim on Wednesday, and then I believe San Jose on Saturday. So they do the California 3-game road trip coming up. They have a decision to make. We know Martin Jones is going on the trip with the team, but who else is joining him? Do you keep Samsonov here, even though he's totally shattered right now and totally lost his confidence? Or do you call up this young Swedish goaltender from the Marlies who's killing it down there right now, Dennis Hildeby? They call him Hildebeest because that's his nickname, because he's been playing so well down there. And does he join Martin Jones as the second goalie for the Leafs on that road trip? So that's the decision I think you're going to hear the next couple days here over to the New Year's Eve and New Year's Day, because they've got some time. They don't start till 2. They probably won't travel out there till tomorrow, but I guess in the next 24 hours we'll hear. Will Samsonov stay with the team despite his massive struggles, or will he be sent down to the AHL, try to get his game back there at that level? And do they call up Hildeby, who is posting some outstanding numbers with the Marlies this year? So interesting decision being made, and that's been the talking point here the last little bit. What do they do? Is Samsonov joining the team on this road trip coming up? Be fascinating.
Yeah, it's a big question. And I'm looking at Hildeby's numbers. He had a couple of shutouts early in the year, and like I said, decent numbers. But I don't know if that's the guy you want to rely on. Look at what Toronto. Toronto, of course, we know that first round of the playoffs isn't enough. They got to go second, third round. They're looking for a cup. You got to make a move at some point and get a better goaltender than what you have right now. Like I said, Samsonov's confidence is shot. We know Martin Jones is due to regress at some point. And do you really want to rely on another youngster after doing this with Joseph Wall last year, in a second half season run, playoff run? I think that's a bad look. I think if you're Toronto, you need to make a move fast. And if it means even moving somebody, a big name that you would want to keep around for the playoffs, so be it, because you're going to need the goaltending. I don't care. We know what Matthews and Marner and that top 6 group will do in the playoffs. And sometimes they won't show up. You're going to need a goaltender to steal you games. You're going to need a goaltender that can steal you a series. They don't have that right now in Toronto. So they got to make a move. And I think they need to do it fast. You can't even wait for the deadline. That's something you need to do in the next 2 weeks, probably.
I think so. I think it's time to open the conversation to going out and getting a goalie at this point. It's just Samsonov at the moment can't be banked on. You certainly can't bank on Martin Jones. You can bank on the 5-hole being open sometimes with him. Like last night, 2 of the goals being
Absolutely.
5-hole, including that's another great prop cash for all of us. We were all on it with Michael Bunting in his return to Toronto with the Carolina Hurricanes last night. He scored the first goal of the game, so that was another nice prop cash. But yeah, big decisions to be made. And important ones for Toronto with their goaltending. All right, we've got New Year's Eve, Sunday, NHL slate to break down. Let's get into it. We will start with, it's where we started yesterday with these same 2 teams. The only difference is the location. Location. It was in Winnipeg yesterday. We were back to St. Paul, Minnesota today for the rematch. Jets and Wild. Winnipeg minus 115 road favorites. 6 the total here in this game. I've certainly leaned to Winnipeg yesterday. Didn't pull the trigger. I certainly took the draw. That didn't hit. I'd probably just flip it this time. And if I were to look at this game, I'd probably lean Wild and probably still lean to the draw a little bit here. Because if you look still at Minnesota, they're playing close games. It was a close game yesterday, 4-2. It's not like Winnipeg ran away. Minnesota got back into it in that game. And if you look at Minnesota here at home, they've been winning close games. Boston, they've been involved in a lot of close ones. In fact, the only one that really got away was the Detroit game when Reimer was in net. We know Reimer's been struggling lately. Other than that, they've been in one close game after another. 4 of the last 8 Minnesota games have gone past regulation. So I'm probably going to sprinkle on the draw one more time today. There's another draw or 2 on this card that I like more, but I'll still lean a little bit to the draw here in this one and lean Minnesota as well from a side perspective. As far as the props go, the props in the game yesterday were very good to me. Nino Niederreiter against his old team for Winnipeg, and he even had a huge day. Ryan Hartman, we talked about him on the show. He's a streaky player when it comes to scoring goals, and he's on the streak right now. That's 4 straight games, I believe, with a goal for Ryan Hartman. I say you go back and run it back with those 2 for sure, Niederreiter and Hartman for goal props in this game. And the other ones I'd consider, Perfetti on Winnipeg, probably look toward Boldy again for Minnesota, who continues to be just on a complete red-hot streak right now, and maybe Rossi as well. So good prop game this was for me yesterday. I'd probably run it back with a lot of those same players I bet yesterday. What do you think here in this one, Alex, to get the party started, Winnipeg, Minnesota?
So it's interesting. You mentioned about how the game started yesterday. It was a early afternoon game in Winnipeg, but the team didn't get here in St. Paul until late last night. It was like around 10 or 11. So something to kind of keep in mind that they didn't just completely, flip around and settle in a little bit here. They, kind of taking this more of a business-like approach because they got the one game here, then they fly right back home and get ready for Tampa on Tuesday. So that being said, I kind of lean with the draw here as well. I could see where this is just kind of just like I said, maybe a rinse and repeat. I like the first period over. That did cash yesterday with the Jets getting a couple of goals. But I also like both teams to score here. That didn't cash yesterday. Like I said, with the Wild being back at home, we always know the Wild play better at home. And that's been the case this year like it has been for several years. So I'll go both teams to score in the first period plus 160. You can lay $1.25 right now, which I did do on the first period over. I wouldn't wait. You could wait if you're watching the game and try to grab plus money, but it's not necessary. And I could kind of see where maybe back-to-back day starts, you could see a goal kind of in the first couple minutes. So I wouldn't screw around. I'd go grab that 125 right now. And I would take a small shot with a draw. It's not my favorite draw play on the board, but it's something we've seen a lot with Wild day games at home. We've seen a lot of close battles and a lot of games that have gone past regulation. So at plus, I'm seeing plus 330, 3 at Caesars, plus 350. I think it's available at FanDuel. I would take a small shot with draw.
Yeah, and as far as this game, there's definitely some truth to that. And as far as in Minnesota's done a nice job against Winnipeg. But Winnipeg did win their last trip here to Minnesota, though, 3-1 back in April last year. Yeah, for me, I don't want either side. I think definitely I would lean Minnesota, but I still think Winnipeg's a better hockey team. I just do, and I don't want to step in front of them at a price like this. So it's for me just to sprinkle on the draw on those props I mentioned, and be careful with the over. I know it's 6 for the full game, and I think we could see scoring early, but don't just say, Laurent Brossoit, Marc-Andre Fleury in net for these 2 teams today. We're going to see goals. Brossoit's been very good in his last 3 starts. He's a capable goaltender. Fleury still has some gas left in his tank, but I agree. If I look at this over, I'd prefer the early part of the game.
Yeah, absolutely. And I was looking back to the draw history. The draw history is a little bit more prevalent. 2 of the last 5 home meetings have gone past regulation in this series. So 2 of the last 5 meetings in St. Paul have gone past regulation, or they've been won. Like 3 of 5. Yeah, 3 of 5 have been won decided by one goal.
21-9-4 for the Jets. And you're right. Great, excellent point by Mike in the chat about the Kyle Connor's been out this whole time. And here's the Winnipeg Jets still rolling along nicely, playing some really good hockey. Even the loss they had to Connor Bedard and the Blackhawks early in the week, to be honest, that was more just Chicago and Mrazek in particular, because Winnipeg could have won. It definitely carried the play against Chicago, but Mrazek had a really good game. And Chicago, pretty good defensive effort, but they've been great at Winnipeg, no question about that. Wait till they get Kyle Connor back, no doubt, could get even better for them at that point. All right, Boston, Detroit. We've got the Bruins minus 135 road favorites, 6 the total, shaded to the over. It is a angry group in Detroit right now based on the events of that football game last night with the Lions. I thought they got robbed, but that's another story. The Detroit Red Wings bounced back. They beat Nashville. How about that? 5-4 in overtime on Friday. It was Alex Lyon's return in net. And to be quite honest with you, I thought it was one of those situations where it was actually an upgrade from what they had before with James Reimer, because James Reimer had really been struggling in between the pipes. Now, Reimer wasn't great in his first start back. Definitely not one of his better starts, but he had been out for a while. He's probably going to gain more rhythm and a little bit more comfort in between the pipes as he gets more ice time, more games under his belt. So I'd expect him to probably be a little bit better here than he was on Friday night. On the flip side, Boston has bounced back. The holiday break was obviously a hit the reset button type of holiday break for Boston, because they didn't play well going into the Christmas break, but they come out of the break going 2-0, beating Buffalo and New Jersey. Of course, last night, that win against the Devils, as we talked about, it was just a deluge all of a sudden of goals in the second period to really give Boston separation from the New Jersey Devils in that game. But you are talking about now a tough spot here for the Bruins. It's back-to-back after being at home, going to Detroit. And think about the start time, too. 5 p.m. Eastern. That's actually a less than 24-hour turnaround, for this Bruins team from playing New Jersey last night. And look, we've been through this song and dance before with talking about the Boston Bruins when they play in Detroit. It's been a bit of a haunted house for them, quite honestly. If you actually look at it, Detroit's played this Bruins team very well. They've won 3 of the last 4 meetings. Detroit has won 3 straight games here at the Pizza Box at Little Caesars Arena when hosting Boston, including a game earlier this year, 5-4. And then in the rematch, where I don't think I bet that game, but I know a lot of people like Boston on November 24th in the rematch because Detroit beat them at home earlier in the month. And Detroit went to Boston and won 5-2 in that game and played a really good one. So this to me is a little bit of it didn't work out yesterday for me with the trap spot, talking about Montreal against Florida. This kind of has that same feel to it here for Boston. I think there's a bit of a dangerous game for them here against a Red Wings team that's looking to put a streak together and stay in the mix here as far as the wild card is concerned in the Eastern Conference. So I'm going to take a small shot here with both Detroit first period and full game money line here, plus 115 in this game. It's just not been a good place for Boston. I mean, they have just not fared well in the Motor City in recent years. So I do think the Red Wings have a shot here in this game. Swayman should be in net for the Bruins. It's expected. We expect him because it was all marked last night. Alex Lyon, of course, confirmed for Detroit. And there are some props I'll mention in just a moment. But first, Alex, what do you think, Bruins, Red Wings?
Yeah, I like this first period over. And this is when you can wait and grab at plus money in game. I'd be waiting to grab maybe plus $1.05 or even $1.10. So wait about 3 or 4 minutes in, and then I think we'll see the goals open up. Like I said, Detroit's been a kind of a house of horrors for the Bruins, and there's some teams that no matter what, no matter how good or bad in a given season they are, they just go to a place and just don't play as well. So that seems like that could be one of the cases, like I said, with the earlier start here as well, kind of a wonky start with some of these midday, mid-evening starts. We could see maybe some sloppier play early in the contest. So I like first period over. I might dabble a little smaller on both teams to score, but I'm definitely going to be waiting and grabbing plus money in game on the first period over here. Staying away from the full game total. A lot of full games, like I said, with these overs, you got to be really careful. We haven't been seeing the holiday rush like we normally have. Usually when we talk about heading into Thanksgiving, heading into Christmas, heading into New Year's, we usually see a lot of high scoring games. That hasn't been the case so far. So treading lightly with some of these totals and probably waiting for a lot of these overs in game.
You know what? I'm actually gonna probably will sprinkle on that first period over. I'm gonna go in on the full game over as well. I'm looking at it right now. It's actually surprisingly with these two teams, 3 of the last 4 have gone over in the full game. 6 of the last 10 have gone over in the full game. And in Detroit, specifically, the last 3 games were between these teams in Detroit, 5-4, 5-3, and 5-3. All of them Detroit victories. So it's Detroit and over. Really, in each of the last 3 head-to-head meetings here in Detroit between these two teams. So I'm going to go with that too, over 6 here. Alex likes the first period over. I do like Morgan Geekie again. As long as he stays on that top line center spot, I think it's great value. I'm going to give a shot too to he didn't score last night, but second game now, maybe he's a little bit more comfortable. Georgi Merkulov, who Jimmy Murphy mentioned on Friday's show. Getting that opportunity called up from Providence from the Bruins there at the AHL level, who's ripping it up. So we'll see how it goes. And then, of course, for Detroit, I mean, they have to start and end with Patrick Kane and Alex DeBrincat. I mean, that tandem is just absolutely rolling right now for them. Make no mistake about it. And it's really been them carrying the load for them offensively. You know, you haven't seen much from Perron since he's been back. Lucas Raymond's been hit or miss. Robbie Fabry now has been more down in the lineup, bottom 6, and he's cooled off. So really it has been the Patrick Kane out, Pat and the Cat. That's what I'll call them. Pat and the Cat show for the Detroit Red Wings lately. So I would certainly focus on those 2 players as far as Red Wing props in this one. All right, Buffalo, Ottawa. We got the Sens minus 150, home favorites, 7 being the total in this game. Ottawa let me down Friday night. But I'm going to come back to the well with them here against the Buffalo Sabres. Buffalo off a win. You know what that means. You can't trust them the next game. And obviously they beat Columbus 3-2 in overtime yesterday. I'll take Ottawa, and I'm going to lay the $1.50. I don't like doing that often, but I'm going to do that here. I'm just going to lay the $1.50. Not have to worry about overtime or a shootout. If they win in overtime or a shootout, I'll cash the ticket. It's right on that, that cutoff point for me. I don't lay more than minus 150, but I will here in this game. Bad game against New Jersey, but I'm willing to forgive them. They had 1-2 in a row before that against the Penguins and the Leafs. We'll see if they can bounce back here. They have the rest advantage. I do think I've seen semblances of better play from them. Again, 60 minutes of that consistent effort is still what they're striving for. Korpisalo expected to be in net for Ottawa, not confirmed. He was absolutely terrific against Toronto. I remember when they came back and beat the Leafs, one of his better performances of the year. We should see Devin Levi for Buffalo. It was Ukko-Pekka Luukkonen in net last night in the win against Columbus. So it sounds like we'll see Levi here in this game. So Ottawa a bit. I'll look for a live over, but I'm going to wait till we get something better than 7. This could be a both teams to score in the first period as well. And as for props, Drake Batherson for Ottawa. You got to go with him. He is just tearing it up right now. He's the absolute most red hot player up front right now for Ottawa. No doubt. Drake Batherson's been rolling. And we're going to go back to the well with on the Buffalo side. He scored one of their goals yesterday, and he's really been picking it up offensively. You not see nothing like the mighty Jack Quinn. Jack Quinn, we're going back to the well here. That's Manfred Mann for those of you that are wondering what that song was. Yeah, that's an old one. Mighty Quinn. That's going back in the day with that karaoke bit. But yeah, Jack Quinn, he's been very good for this Sabres team. He has a great shot, a great release. I think people knew that when he started the season out with that Achilles injury, it was a big blow to the Sabres. He was someone that was really starting to come into his own down the stretch of last year. He's been back, Alex, for 5 games. He's already got 3 goals, and 3 goals in the last 4 games for Jack Quinn. And you can still get terrific prices. Like I was able to get close to plus 300 for him to score a goal yesterday in that game against the Columbus Blue Jackets. Today against Ottawa, Jack Quinn is out there at plus 340 at FanDuel in this game. So more great value as far as Quinn tonight. Or this, actually, I should say, I think it's an afternoon game. Yeah, it's like an evening game, early evening, 6 p.m. Eastern. So consider it tonight for Jack Quinn. Stützle's actually, been a little bit quiet lately, but he's been doing more of his damage, Mike, at home. So I wouldn't argue with Stützle. I find he does more of his scoring at home than he does on the road. So I don't mind that look at all either. What do you think here, Alex? Buffalo, Ottawa.
So I'm looking at this kind of series history. We've seen a lot of unders, but I've noticed in the second and third periods we've been seeing a ton of goals. In the last two meetings, you had in the second period 4 goals, and then you had another 4 goals in the third period.
And I remember one of those
April,
recently came back to cash the full game over with that late game explosion of goals. Yeah, I remember
right.
it.
That game went over. The game before, which pushed on 7, 3-2 in the second period, and then 1 goal in the third. Going back a couple more years, seeing 2 goals, 3 goals, 2 goals in the second and third period. So this is one I'm definitely going to be waiting for that number to come down on. I think we could probably get around. Going to get some goals early. So the way that we're going to kind of play this is looking for second period, both teams to score, waiting for that in game, and then looking at that time for maybe something early, first couple minutes of the second period, looking for an over at that spot. Now, obviously, if this game gets out of hand in the first, this is all completely scrapped as far as full game total goes. But the thing I'm targeting here is both teams to score in the second period. I don't want to side. I'm not laying 150. I'll be rooting for you, Ian, but definitely can't back Buffalo in any sort of way. It would be Ottawa or nothing, but I don't trust Ottawa in regulation. So I understand why you're laying 150. It makes total sense, but I'm just going to be targeting that both teams to score in the second period and probably won't have too much else. Like I said, maybe a full game over if this kind of starts a little slower than expected and we see that 7 turn into a 6 or a 5. You get a 5.5 in the first period.
I'm jumping on that. Oh, yeah.
And you grab that. But we're targeting second period and beyond kind of with this in-game look.
That actually might be the best approach is just, sit it out for the first period, see how it starts out. And then if you are able to get a 1-0 period and you get a 5.5 at some point, that's when you bet it, because you're right. This history of second and third periods being more goals head to head with these two teams, it's pretty pronounced. It's pretty clearly evident from what we've seen in recent meetings. So definitely a good point. Yeah, I got to correct you there, Greg, with the comment. Quinn's been quiet. Yeah, but he's been scoring. He's been scoring. And look, Greg's a great commenter. I always see him commenting on our YouTube videos. He's clearly more jacked than I will ever be. But nevertheless, you look at it based on the profile pic, puts me to shame. But nevertheless, when you look at the Jack Quinn, he's been good, Greg. He's been good. He's actually not been quiet. 3 goals in the last 4 games for the Buffalo Sabres. So absolutely been in good form of late. So as far as that goes, that's partially why we're betting his prop again today, because he's been producing and doing it at a very rapid clip here for the Buffalo Sabres of late. So no question about that. Jack Quinn, we're going back to the well there with props there. And like I said, we expect Levi Korpisalo to be the goaltending matchup here in this game. All right, New York Islanders, Pittsburgh Penguins. We've got the Penguins here. Pretty much actually even money here, -110 both sides. It actually opened with the Penguins a slight home favorite, but there's been money coming in on the Islanders, and based on the situationals, I can kind of understand why. The total 6 here in this game. Clearly, we know what the situationals are. I mean, the teams just played, 5 days ago, 6 days ago, and it was the Islanders getting embarrassed on home ice by the Pittsburgh Penguins, 7-0. And the fact that they play the Penguins again, not even a week later, it's ripe and fresh in their minds, that they got absolutely just humbled, destroyed, humiliated, embarrassed by the Penguins earlier this week. You got to believe there's absolutely focus, intensity right from the puck drop here tonight for this New York Islanders team in this game. And they have the rest advantage, too. You talk about the Islanders played Friday night in a win against Washington, 5-1. And they showed in that game how pissed they were about losing to Pittsburgh 7-0, because that was their first game since that drubbing to the Penguins. And they just basically beat down the Capitals 5-1 in that game. So this is just like what I did with the Detroit game earlier. I'm going to go Islanders first period, Islanders full game in this one. I'm going to do a double up here. Not a double up in terms of units, but a split bet. I mean, Islanders first period, Islanders full game. I expect, obviously, this team to want to atone for what happened earlier this week. I still don't fully trust the Penguins. I know they had a nice 4-2 win against St. Louis, their second win in a row and they won their previous game. And I know they beat the Islanders badly, 7-0 earlier this week. Keep in mind, though, before that 7-0 win for Pittsburgh, the Islanders had beaten the Penguins 4 straight times. So, in the series history, the Islanders had done well, and then all of a sudden, Pittsburgh gets that 7-0 win. And look, there's things to like about Pittsburgh. The power play is starting to hit and on all cylinders again. The power play has been great lately for Pittsburgh after that brutal stretch where they went almost over 40. They have scored a power play goal now in 6 of their last 8 games. So the power play has been better. They're getting some solid enough goaltending. They've picked things up defensively. They've held 3 of their last 14 opponents to 2 goals or less. But I think this is wrong place, wrong time, wrong opponent, wrong time. The Islanders are going to want to answer the bell for that debacle against the Penguins earlier in the week, and I think they will. They've got the rest advantage. And it's Sorokin in net, the guy that was in net the night of that 7-0 shellacking. So you got to believe he's going to want to play better. Back-to-back for Pittsburgh. Jari last night. We assume Alex Nedeljkovic is going to get the start here tonight for Pittsburgh. So I would say angry Sorokin probably gives the Islanders a goaltending advantage here in this game. So Islanders first period, full game. I am off a draw on the Islanders for the first time in ages. For the first time in ages, I am not betting a New York Islanders draw because I have a feeling this is Islanders putting their foot down. They win 4-1, 4-2, something like that. That's what I think Sorokin really dials it in after, because he was in net, and Lane Lambert left him in net for most of those goals too. Like even when those goals were coming in bunches, he kept him in the game through that time. So yeah, Islanders spot for me all the way here. What do you think, Alex? Islanders Penguins.
Yeah, it's a beer bet on the draw only because it's the Islanders, but also
I guess I'll throw like a couple bucks.
Yeah,
sure,
yeah.
I will.
And I was on it in the 7-0 game, and once I knew that thing was dead in the water, but I said they play it in a couple of days, and that seems like it could be, because here's the thing: the Islanders, when they're controlling things, they want that kind of style, that back and forth kind of close battle. So that's the thing about the whole draw island thing, is it's not so much just they're just finding themselves into, there were a couple of fluky overtimes that hit, the comebacks and different things of that nature. But when they're playing their game the style that they want to, it's usually a 3-2, 4-3 kind of a close battle anyway. So, in this being a game where we think the Islanders are going to, dictate the pace and tempo early, it seems like, okay, well, it makes sense to have something on the draw, because if they're playing the style they want, this game probably ends, like I said, Islanders 4-3, maybe 5-3, but like I said, Penguins are playing well enough to where they could, still draw this and make this a competitive battle. So a little bit on the draw, but what I like a little bit more, and you have to shop around because it's a pick'em game, and I'm looking, the only place I'm seeing this right now is PointsBet, and there's a couple other shops, but I want the first period puck line laying the half a goal with the Islanders. And that's why I say you have to shop around, because a lot of books, even though, like I said, we're seeing the lines, most of them have the Islanders as the favorite within the puck line parameters. And so that's something you have to really kind of look out for. So
if the alternative puck line is what you're looking for on that.
Right. Yep. So an alternative first period puck line. So I'm saying you have to shop around, because you might have to look in the alternative menu. But if you're looking at a PointsBet or somewhere where they have the Islanders favorite, then that should just be in your regular menu. So that's kind of what I'm getting at. So laying the half a goal in the first period with the Islanders. And I got to confirm and look for a plus 185 is the price I'm seeing with some of those. So I do think the Owls come out early and hot. I don't like the first period over necessarily. Like I said, if the Owls are playing the style they want, they probably want to get out of that period with a 1-0 lead. Like I said, Sorokin definitely going to be looking to play with some fire and some grit after, like I said, getting left hung out to dry against this team. And this could be one of those kind of close, tighter games. So maybe some in-game looks as well. But the only thing I have pregame is Islanders first period puck line, laying the half a goal. So just search around. You either have to look in your alternative menu or your regular menu, depending on.
All right, so first period, I have first period, by the way, money line, not puck line. So I'm being a little more cautious.
Yeah.
I'm going with just money line in the first period. But yeah, Alex going for that plus price with the alternative puck line on the Islanders in the first period, which again is a very good price. We're talking plus 175 or so with that.
Yeah. And if you can't get that, if you have a book that only offers a regular puck, first period puck line, and they are favorite, so you have to lay a price, then go, by all means, go with the $1.10 or $1.05, whatever you can get for a straight money line in the first period. If you can't find that puck line.
Yeah, alternative puck line, Nate, means that it's just, it's basically, you got your favorite minus 1.5, your underdog plus 1.5, and then the alternative puck line is basically everything else. So you can get the underdog, minus 1.5. You can get the favorite minus 2.5, 3.5. You can get the favorite even plus 1.5 and lay some ridiculous price that I'd never lay in a million years. So basically, all the alternative options than the main puck line option that is given. That's basically what it is.
It's also known as a reverse puck line, too, when you talk about it in the full game parameters. But when you're looking at periods and other things, it's just the alternative puck line overall.
Yeah, no doubt. And for the Islanders, too, I'm going to actually, when I look at the I'm going to sprinkle on 2 first period correct score props. And I know I don't do this very often, but Islanders 1 and 2-0, plus 500, plus 1100 for those two. One of them hits,
Okay.
it's profit. So
Makes
that's what
sense.
I'm going to do. Islanders 1-0 plus 500, Islanders 2-0 plus 1100. Why not? One of those hits, and I think those are plausible first period scores in this game.
Might as well grab a 2-1 while you're at it too.
Yeah, why not? And again, if one of them hits, you're profitable. Yeah, 2-1 would be 11-1 as well in the first period. So yeah, one of them hits, you're definitely going to be profitable because you could lose 2 and win 1. And as like I say, one hits, you're going to lose let's say it's 1 unit each. You'll be -2 on the 2 that lose, but the one that cashes is going to wipe out the -2 units of loss and turn it into profit. So there you go, easily with plenty of profit. Like I said, if one of them hits, no doubt. I think it's got that reasonable possibility of a 1-0, 2-0 Islander lead after the first period here. All right, Montreal, Tampa Bay. We've got the Lightning -200, home favorites, 6.5 the total in this game. Yeah, disappointing from Montreal. Although if you look at that game, they started out well. They had power plays. They had opportunities. They couldn't convert. They hit a post. They missed some nets. Stolarz was also very good. And then as the game went on, I thought Florida got stronger. And when Montreal failed on those chances, Florida got the lead. They kind of wilted a little bit after that. And now Florida ended up really doing a better job taking control of the game. They won 4-1. 3 of the last 4 games they've lost. They're actually 3-3 their last 6, Montreal, and the losses were all competitive. Even the Florida game was not really a runaway. Carolina, they needed an empty net goal to make it 5-3, and that game was actually 3-3 in the third period against Carolina in that loss. And then, of course, the 4-3 loss in overtime against Minnesota, while they also beat Chicago and Winnipeg during this 6-game stretch, Montreal. So they've been playing competitive hockey here, and when you look at this spot here, Tampa Bay is kind of struggling again here, even on home ice, which has been so much better for them. They've lost 2 in a row at home against the Panthers and the Rangers, back-to-back situation for Tampa, although no travel. But, you're definitely, you would think, going to see Jonas Johansson here tonight in net for the Lightning after we got Vasilevsky against the Rangers last night. It should be Sam Montembeault for the Canadiens, and he's probably the best goalie they have. Johansson, if you start to look at his play, really, he got all those games October, November with Vasilevsky out. He's only started 2 games since Vasilevsky came back, and he's given up 7 goals in those 2 games combined. So it almost seems like, Johansson, now that he's out of that rhythm of playing every other day and getting all the starts like that, he's struggling more with it, believe it or not. So I'm not sure I trust him here to be able to shut the door here against Montreal. I'm personally going to go back to the well and run back the bets that lost for me last night against Florida. I'm going to go back to the well here with Montreal team total because it's 2.5. It's dirt cheap. It's -130 for a Canadiens team total over 2.5. I'm going to rock a little bit with Montreal money line, just a small bet again at +170. This is a draw consideration for me, although I don't love the draw in this game, but I do lean to the draw a little bit. I'll have a small piece of that along with the Montreal +170. Really like the team total over 2.5. And I do think I'm going to take a small piece of that over 6.5 too in this game. Going to keep the full game over smaller, the Montreal +170 smaller, the draw smaller, and the one I like the most is the team total for Montreal. Montreal over 2.5 here in this one. What do you think here, Alex? Canadiens, Lightning.
Yeah, this is a tough goalie matchup because I'm looking at positive, especially if it's Cade and Primo. Like I said, I mean, this just seems like it could just be a bit of a track meet. But at the same time, though, I don't trust Montreal to just pour buckets of goals, even against the Jonas Johansson. But like you said, he hasn't been the same since being relegated to his number 2 role. I wouldn't even say 1B because when it's Vasilevsky, it's his net, and you have to kind of go back to being a spectator most nights. So, and I'm not surprised by the fact that we've seen him kind of slug off a bit. That's tough for him to have arguably his longest run of his career, and I'll go on and say probably the longest run we've seen his entire career of being a starter in the NHL. And now have to go back to being a backup, and you just don't get those reps and the repetition and your things just aren't balanced properly. So I look at that full game over. I would try to grab something in game at a cheaper price, not necessarily a number. If you can just get $1.10 on 6.5, that's fine. Go with that. But I also like both teams to score here at plus 160 in the first period. With that correlating, you can try and grab a first period over live if the price is right. But I think we could see both teams score, and I think we could probably see it happen maybe a little later too. So don't necessarily jump in for a first period over right away in the first few minutes. Maybe even wait for a goal and then wait for that 2.5 to revert back down to a 1.5 and then get back in like $1.30, $1.35. We can see a goal late in that first period. So both teams to score first period and full game over, first period over is in game. Those are three things I like.
All right, good stuff. And for props, I'm back to Slafkovsky and Josh Anderson. I've talked about those two in particular repeatedly for Montreal. And Mike Matheson for props is worth a look right now, too, the defenseman. He plays power play. He's on a 5-game point streak. He's also got a goal in those 5 games, but more importantly, the point streak. So, definitely get in on either assist or point props right now for Mike Matheson. For Montreal, because he's definitely done a nice job in terms of chipping in from the blue line. No doubt about that. For Tampa Bay, Nick Paul, as long as he stays on the top line, as I say, worth a look. I want to point out Mikey Eyssimont, too. Even though he's on the third line, he's been starting to chip in some offense, and it looked like he had a goal last night against the Rangers, but it got disallowed. It was a challenge on the play by the Rangers. They won the challenge, or else Mikey Eyssimont would have scored last night. So keep an eye on him. He's been sneaky, getting chances and being able to find the back of the net lately for the Tampa Bay Lightning. All right, Edmonton taking on Anaheim back-to-back for the Oilers after a big shootout win against the LA Kings last night. They're minus 220 road favorites tonight, 6.5 the total in this game. I'm not shy about, at this time of year, especially holiday season, taking a shot with some underdogs, and I feel this is definitely feels like an Anaheim spot. Now, they let me down dramatically the other night against Arizona, getting shut out at home. I thought that Vegas game where they beat the Golden Knights was going to be a big confidence builder, a springboard for Anaheim to get things rolling again. I like the fact that Anaheim's healthy finally. McTavish is back. Zegras is back. Jamie Drysdale, who is so underrated. Nobody talks about him enough. He's back on the blue line for Anaheim. And yet they look like they were stuck in mud against Arizona the other night. So it kind of concerns me. What also concerns me, too? We know Leo Carlson's on IR. We now see that Troy Terry and Radko Gudas are on the injured list. And just as they were starting to get healthy, here's Troy Terry, day-to-day, upper body injury that he suffered Friday. We'll see if he's in tonight. Radko Gudas as well. We'll see if he's been banged up the last couple of games. We'll see if he is able to play for the Ducks. So we'll have to wait and see. But it's not at all a spot that Edmonton is trustworthy in tonight. A huge win against a team they've got a history with, a big-time team. And I know they're 13-2. Hard to step in front of Edmonton right now. I get it. But back-to-back on the road after a win like that, they're going to have Cal Pickard in net on the back-to-back most likely in this game tonight. And he's a good goalie at times, but which Cal Pickard are you going to get? You're going to get the guy that gave up just one goal and beat the Devils 4-1? Or are you going to get the guy that got shelled by Florida and they lost 5-1 in that game? What's it going to be here for Cal Pickard tonight? Energized is on what I'm on. I like more than anything the Anaheim team total here. Over 2.5. I like that quite a bit. It's a little safer route, too, in case they don't win the hockey game. And just like with the Montreal team total, we're talking over 2.5, around minus 130. So it's not at all a bad price in this game. Over 2.5 for the Ducks. I'm going to sprinkle on the plus 180 with Anaheim here, as well as the full game over. So a little bit of all three. But just like with the last game, I kind of like team total more. First period's not bad either, John. I could see first period they pounce on Edmonton a little bit. Because remember, Edmonton had a bad first period last night against LA. It took them until the second period to really find their legs and get going and play their best. We definitely might see that tonight because I saw the reactions of McDavid and Skinner, everyone on that Oilers team after they won in that shootout. They were feeling it. They were feeling their oats. They were amped. They were happy. That was a happy bunch of Oilers coming out off the ice after that win last night, coming back to beat a really good team like the LA Kings. So I think I'm going to split up that money line portion of my bet, which I mentioned, plus 180. I'm going to split it up with the full first period and the full game money line here with the Anaheim Ducks in this game. And the full game is plus 180. The first period money line is still a pretty good plus 156 right now at Pinnacle. So still a pretty good price with that. Alex, what are you thinking here? An interesting, fascinating handicap given the spot for the Oilers here as they take on the Ducks.
Yeah, like I said, if this was a healthier Ducks team, I would probably be right there in lockstep with you on first period, full game. I would lean more with full game at plus 180. Like just the Oilers, can they give a full 60-minute effort off of that win? And Calvin Pickard, like I said, big question mark there. But a shorthanded Ducks team, no Carlson, no Terry, no Gudas. Gudas has been, shockingly decent as well. He's not playing like he was in that Florida playoff run, but he's been, much better than I'd say the last year and a half, right? We could probably say this is the best hockey he's been playing for the majority of his NHL tenure. So those are big losses. And Lucas Dostal, who looked great early in the year, has kind of regressed and has just kind of looked like his ho-hum backup form. So this game kind of screams to me like it could be goals galore, but, who's going to score for Anaheim? Is Zegras going to do all the work? So I'm kind of staying off of this game altogether. If I had to place something, it would be both teams to score first period. But I don't like that price at plus 140. So it may be just a beer bet for me in that spot. I could see where Edmonton, maybe some of that momentum, if it does roll off of last night, it would be early. And then they kind of crater late. And with Anaheim, like I said, if they can catch an Oilers team early that looked bad or early last night, has looked bad early in certain games, then we could probably see where Anaheim. So I'm torn in this first period. And that's why both teams to score kind of makes sense to me. I can see where maybe we see some momentum go back and forth. But I think if Edmonton falls off a cliff, probably going to be the second or third periods later, that momentum from the shootout and the comeback could roll into that early start. And then as soon as they hit the locker room, the legs are just gone. So that's kind of what I'm looking for and kind of circling in this contest.
And again, important to point out, too, with Troy Terry is that, excuse me, he hasn't been ruled out yet fully. He's going to be a game-time decision. He still might play tonight, so, but it's definitely going to be probably a close to puck drop decision that gets made by Greg Cronin and the coaching staff about whether Troy Terry plays. I do want to point out, if he doesn't play, it's looking like Max Jones is going to be on the top line possibly here tonight for Anaheim. So you talk about someone that's going to have massive value as far as player props for this game. That would be him if he gets that assignment with no Troy Terry. And he's plus 520 at Betano, plus 500 at FanDuel to score a goal tonight. And then as far as the Edmonton side, for props, Ryan McLeod has really been noticeable. Even last night, he didn't score, but he had chances, and he scored a bunch in a few games before that. Definitely some value as far as player props involving him right now. I give credit, by the way, to I know they had the big ceremony last night as we're recording this show at the Fox NFL pregame starting, and Jimmy Johnson, professional, showing up for work today, even after his big night last night, going in the Ring of Honor with the Cowboys. So good stuff. Being a pro. Still doing the work on the studio today for Fox. All right, Philadelphia and Calgary. If that was me, I probably would have been partying it up all night and still right now. After a night like that. Philadelphia, Calgary. We've got the Flames minus 135, home favorites, 5.5 the total here in this game. Yeah, that's right, 5.5. You always have to do a bit of a double take, eyebrow raise when you see a 5.5 total these days, but we do have one here for the Flyers and the Flames. This is the draw that I love today. No question about that. If you're starting to look at Philadelphia, we've got ourselves another draw magnet team in the making right now, this Philadelphia team. They have really been going to overtime or a shootout quite a bit in recent games. I cashed the draw with them in Seattle on Friday night in that 2-1 loss to the Kraken. That's now 5 of the last 8 Philadelphia Flyers games that have gone past regulation going into this one. I think these teams play close games. You look at Calgary, they were in a 2-1 game with Seattle, 5-3 close game with LA, 3-1 with Florida, and there was an empty net there. They had overtime and a shootout in the middle part of December, back-to-back against Minnesota and Vegas. The Colorado game nearly went to overtime on that road trip as well. So two teams I don't think are going to gain separation from each other in this game tonight. You look at the goaltending matchup, it should be Hart and Markstrom starting for their respective teams. Nothing else to do with this game, in my opinion, but bet the draw. I could make a case for either side. I certainly lean to Philly in the plus money, but I'm just going to stick to the draw here in this one. Alex, Flyers, Flames.
Yeah, I'm right there with you on this draw. And I got it plus 325 at Bet Online. Like I said, this is one of those games, shop around because you might find a better price on the yes/no prop than you do on the regulation draw prop. So you got to shop around with that, unfortunately. But like I said, Philly's one of those teams that has kind of grown into that, draw season. And that whole Metropolitan Division, there's 4 teams that have double-digit games past regulation. And I think the other teams is like Pittsburgh's at 6, Pittsburgh at 7, and New Jersey at 6. So any game that involves a Metropolitan Division team, you could make a case at one point or another for a draw with the way that division's going. And of course, as things tighten up in the second half with that division, you're going to see a lot more closer games. So that being said, I definitely think this could have that kind of a pace and feel. Somebody's talking about correct score in the chat. I would say this would probably be if you were taking a correct score shot. And I don't do this all the time, but I will start looking at these a little bit more when I do like a draw. What do I think the score would be? I would say 3-3 makes the most sense out of this, or a 2-2. So that being said, I wouldn't be looking at the over here, even at a 5.5. And I know we usually try to jump to 5.5 for overs immediately. This is one I'd be a little bit more cautious with. I say just go with the draw and look for a close contest.
Yeah, I really, this is probably my favorite draw bet for the entire slate today. This one, Philadelphia and Calgary. And not to mention, we've actually seen some head-to-heads with these two teams go to overtime or a shootout, 5 of the last 10. So definitely it makes sense to expect real possibility of some overtime here between these two teams. As far as the prop market goes, I'm going to stick to Owen Tippett, Morgan Frost. I know I've mentioned them a couple of times for Philadelphia. For the Calgary Flames, Sharon Govich, Blake Coleman. They're of interest to me. They've both been obviously very good for an extended period of time, so certainly wouldn't mind player props involving them in this game. All right, next up, hey, it's college football bowl season. We'll call this the Matt Robinson, Alex B. Smith Bowl right here. Chicago Blackhawks, Dallas Stars. We've got Dallas minus 400 home favorite, 6.5 the total. And good news too, we've got Matt joining us on Tuesday. Once again, he's gonna be making a weekly spot on our show. He's that popular. He's doing a great job. I mean, I can't believe the kind words. Everybody's enjoying what Matt's doing, and Matt will be on with us Tuesday, January 2nd, our first show of 2024. So, looking forward to Matt being on with us once again. Blackhawks Stars for the second straight time. Yeah, obviously it was a great game Friday night betting-wise for everyone involving our crew. I mean, Alex had the draw as his best bet. It cashes. He had the first period over. It cashes. Matt and I had the full game over in that game at 6, and it ended up cashing. So it was a great game the other night between these two teams from a betting standpoint. You know, I would probably lean to running back the overs again. First period over, full game over. Now, the total's been bet up or gone up a little bit from the first game. We were able to get a flat 6 with the game on Friday night, this time at 6.5. So we don't get the luxury of the 6 for this game, but I would still go first period, full game over, quite honestly. Now, we were talking a little bit about this before we started the show, Alex and I. Yes, Peter Mrazek is in net tonight, and yes, he's been pretty good lately. But he's now going to be playing his 8th or 9th start in the last 20 days. And that's the most starts in this period of time, I think, that he's had in a long time because he's been injured all the time. And he hasn't been able to put this much games under his belt in this kind of a period of time for a long time. And is he going to hit the wall? Is he getting fatigued? Is he going to get run down at some point? Well, he gave up 5 against Dallas, and to me, it did look like he was just a little bit more off his game because he has been good. He was great against Winnipeg. They beat Colorado at home. He was great in that game, I thought, as well. But in that game Friday night, Mrazek was just, you can wonder if fatigue is setting in for him because he's had to start so many games because they have no confidence whatsoever in you-know-who. Arvid, as Alex calls him, Arvid Soderbaum for the Chicago Blackhawks. So they've had to run Mrazek right now into the ground. And unfortunately, it may not be a great thing here for this Chicago team. I also think Scott Wedgwood needs a bit of a rest. He's played a lot because Ottinger's been out. He's now played, this is going to also be his 8th start in the last 16 days. So he's been playing basically every other day for a guy that is not used to this kind of workload on a consistent basis, Scott Wedgwood. So do we see the Matthew Murray sighting? That's a great point from Landon, our good friend of the show, Dallas fan. It's possible. We'll see. No confirmation yet. for the Dallas Stars as to who will be in net, but it could be Matthew Murray. Maybe they do rest Wedgwood. As of right now, you have to treat it like Wedgwood will be in net because every site is saying he's expected, but obviously that could change. Either way, I like the first period over, full game over, which, look, we've seen a little bit of a derailment temporarily of the Dallas first period overs. We had those 2 losses in a row, but they got back to the first period over Friday against Chicago. And what's the run still, even after the 2 losses in a row? 12 and 2, 12 and 3 to the over for Dallas in the last 14, 15 games. So, yeah, first period over, full game over for me. Alex liked the draw on Friday night. Well, does he like it again here? We'll find out right now. What do you think, Alex? Chicago, Dallas.
Yeah, the draw. I'm not as hot on the draw here. And even though you can get as high as I'm seeing plus 440, plus 450, plus 460, it's worth grabbing to have some in pocket. But it's definitely not a full unit play. This is not a best bet like it was the other night. And like I said, with the goaltending, Peter Mrazek has been playing his ass off. And I've been very critical of him, but he's been great the last 3 or 4 starts. And now we, like I said, we're asking ourselves before the show, can this continue? Playing this long, and even looking at the Dallas game, like I said, he's given up goals, even though he's played well, but he's still given up some goals. So the over makes a ton of sense. First period and full game, but I'm getting a little more creative with this. I'm going a half unit right now on the first period over 1.5. I get laid $1.40. I'm waiting to lay the second half unit and another unit on the full over in game. So I'm just kind of insulating myself in case there's an early goal for that first period. But I think we'll be able to have time within this contest to definitely get over that 6.5, even if it isn't Matthew Murray starting for Dallas, who I'm not really bullish on as far as the goaltending room in Dallas. He's not one of those guys down in Texas that's going to really get the bump. I think Remy Poirier is actually the better goaltender of those two. So that being said, I'm definitely like an over with him in that. But even if you're talking about Wedgwood, you're talking about the same situation with Mrazek. Here's a career backup who's now getting the most star time he's seen in quite some time, playing the most consecutive games. You have that along with a Mrazek who, like I said, looking back, the last time he's had this kind of a run was like 2018-19 with Carolina, of playing this many starts without getting hurt or being benched. So over makes sense, but I say wait in game. You're looking for a better price. You may not get the best of the numbers. So don't look for a 5.5. If you can get plus money on 6.5, by all means, grab that, and then grab that along with some plus money on the first period over. Like I said, tag half of that at $1.40, $1.45, and then grab the rest of it at looking for at least $1.05 or better in game. So that should be about 3 or 4 minutes in.
There we go. It's like his spidey senses are tingling. Oh, Dallas Stars are being talked about. Oh, Matt shows up all of a sudden in the chat. There we go. He likes Dallas. I got that sense too, honestly. Like they knew they didn't play great. They let Chicago back into it when they were up 4-2. Chicago comes back and ties it. And credit to Chicago. But you're right. I think there's that sense Dallas says we could play a cleaner, better 60 minutes here tonight against Chicago. We'll see if they do.
I'm kind of bummed out that we aren't seeing Soderblom in that, because that would have been my play. I would have been all over Dallas at team total. Soderblom goals against had he been getting the start here, because I could definitely see that. But with Mrazek and riding this hot wave now, okay, of course he could completely falter and still end up being a 5-2 final. But I would have felt a lot more comfortable having Soderblom in net for this one rather than Mrazek with this hot run that he's been, as far as looking at a Dallas side or anything Dallas related.
Like I say, I think Matt's got an Ice Guys show, Dallas Stars discussion detector in his place somehow set up. And the moment, Dallas is being talked about on the show. There's Matt in the chat right there. Good stuff. And like I mentioned yesterday, Alex, about the display picture for Matt, that was when after he took a butt end of a stick, apparently. So, yeah, that's why he looks all, like he's been beaten up and bludgeoned. And, basically someone stole his wallet and beat the shit out of him or something like that. Yeah, that happens in hockey. Yeah, you pay the punishment sometimes, no doubt about it. So yeah, we like overs. Alex does. He's getting creative with it. And then as far as props go for this game, it was a quiet night for the Bedard line, believe it or not. It was really the foot soldiers. It was Tyler Johnson and other players getting it done for them offensively in the first meeting on Friday. We'll have to see in this one, but Bedard with Kurashev and Foligno, I still say stick with it. Dickinson, is someone that can step up and score every now and then. Here's a sneaky one. Colin Blackwell. Clearly, this guy throws his weight around. He really works hard every shift. This has been Colin Blackwell's career. But he's getting more and more ice time, and he looks like he's getting a second line opportunity tonight for Chicago. So I'm telling you what, maybe a little sprinkle there with Colin Blackwell. Now, I know we're talking about a player that is yet to find the back of the net this season, but you're talking about now moving up to the lineup, and you're going to get a crazy price with him here tonight in this game. So something to keep in mind.
Plus 700, I see.
Yeah, I mean, why not? Just a little sprinkle on that. And then, of course, for Dallas, it was actually for the change. This line of Hintz, Robertson, and Pavelski's taken a back seat to Duchesne and Marchment and Sagan, but it was Pavelski and Robertson and Hintz that did the damage Friday night. I say it flips this time. I say this is the night where we see more from Duchesne and Marchment and Sagan, that group. So I'd be interested in some of their props tonight here as well. All right, next up, we've got our final game of the Sunday slate, but keep in mind, we'll be talking about the Winter Classic for tomorrow after that with Vegas and Seattle. But we'll wrap up with the final Sunday game first. San Jose, Colorado. The Avalanche minus 400. Home favorites, 6.5 the total in this game. Colorado back home where they're 14-4, where they've played their best hockey. The team was not happy about blowing that game against Arizona early in the week, 5-4 loss after having a 4-0 lead. They played a much better, great effort, team defensive effort on the road to beat St. Louis 2-1 the other night. Now they return home to take on the San Jose team that's back to the San Jose we know and love, the worst team in the NHL here the last 7 games, 0-7 their last 7 games, and back to giving up goals in bunches. This team has not given up fewer than 4 goals in 6 straight games, and they've given up 5 or more in 5 of the last 6 games. So this team's defensive play is absolutely abysmal. And Alex, the one thing I did the last game for San Jose where they played Edmonton was I jumped on first period and full game Edmonton team total in that game and ended up cashing both of them. The over 1.5 in the first period with the Oilers team total was plus 160. It was a great price. And I was a little reluctant about the 4.5 because I don't love betting full game team totals 4.5, but I still did in that game. And of course, they ended up scoring 5. Like, they're having a real defensive issue right now. Well, that and their goaltending is looking like we expect their goaltending to look, which is not very good when you got Blackwood and Kokkonen in net every night. And then you got Magnus Corona Magnus Corona in the net the other night against Edmonton, and he had a real rough night in goal for the Sharks in that game. So they're back to giving up goals in bunches. So, hey, look, it cashed for me both of those against Edmonton. With Edmonton, I should say, against San Jose the other night. I'm going to go to those same 2 bets here tonight. We're going to take Colorado first period team total. Over 1.5 is plus 170. So very good price with that, which I like even more than the full game team total. Getting that first period team total over 1.5 plus 170 on the Colorado Avalanche in this game. And the full game team total with the Avalanche, you can find that at around 4.5 plus, pretty good price though, plus 140 with the over 4.5. The price is so good with the plus money at the 4.5. You could probably get over 4 for a little extra security if you like at BetMGM for a pretty reasonable price. So let me just go and check at BetMGM, which offers the half goal increments with team totals, what we can get for Colorado. Yeah, over 4 minus 140. I might just bite the bullet, go with 4.5. 4.5 at the plus 140 at Pinnacle, which I really do like. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to do the team total split for Colorado against this San Jose team, which is just hemorrhaging goals defensively here the last 6-7 games. Alex, what do you think here with this one, San Jose, Colorado?
Yeah, I mean, like I said, that you have to get creative with this. And I was looking at the parlays on GM. Avalanche and over 5.5 at $1.10 is not terrible. I probably won't bet anything in this game, to be honest, but I'm just kind of trying to find the best of value there, just kind of looking around. That's something that would make a lot of sense. But Sharks have regressed, and the Avalanche, they just scare me in this spot at home, laying a big price. We've seen them lay eggs in this spot before, but we can't trust San Jose right now. So it's going to be a pass for me, but like I said, you got to get creative if you want to back the Avs.
You absolutely do. And this is basically me getting creative here. I mean, this is, to me, when you're looking at a pathway to value, it's hard to find it on a minus 400 favorite. It just is. But to me, this is one of the best paths, especially that first period team total for Colorado, which is plus 170. Like, could you easily see Colorado back home where they consistently play better, scoring 2 goals. It's very possible in this game. And in fact, I think they've had some fast starts at home lately as well. I'm just going back looking at their recent home games. Arizona home game. Well, they only scored 1 in that game. They scored 2 against Ottawa at home. They played San Jose December 17th at home, 6-2. They scored 3 in the first period. There you go. They played San Jose at home December the 17th. They scored 6. They won 6-2, and they scored 3 of their 6 goals in the first period in that game. So definitely, I think a pretty good chance to see Colorado get to 2 goals in the opening period here against this Sharks team. It's just back to just a hideous defensive run it's been for them here in recent games. All right, so that is the Sunday card, but we are not done yet. We are not on tomorrow. It's New Year's Day. We're taking a much-needed day off, recovering from our New Year's Eve hangover. I am out at a friend's function tonight for New Year's Eve, the same group that I usually hang with on New Year's Eve. We've been hanging for like 10, 15 years together on New Year's Eve, so that's always fun, ring in the new year together. So I'll need a little hangover from that. We'll have some adult beverages in our system, so we'll be off tomorrow with no show. So for that reason, we're talking NHL Winter Classic today. Vegas Golden Knights, Seattle Kraken, 3 p.m. Eastern on Monday, New Year's Day. T-Mobile Park in Seattle is where this game is taking place. It's the home, of course, of the Seattle Mariners, of course, using it right now for this NHL outdoor game. We've got Vegas minus 135, road favorites, 6 the total. And shout out to Kenny Albert, who's got himself one hell of a weekend in Seattle. He's there and calling the Pittsburgh Steelers Seattle Seahawks game on Fox later this afternoon. And then, of course, he's going to have the call of Vegas, Seattle, and the Winter Classic on TNT tomorrow. So big weekend in Seattle, in the Emerald City, for Kenny Albert. Great. I'd love to be in his shoes right now. As someone that at one point aspired to be a broadcaster, man, how about that for a double dip? You do an NFL game today and an outdoor game NHL tomorrow. That's living the life right there. As far as this game goes, Vegas and Seattle, Vegas, I was impressed. They've gone through the woes. They've gone through the rough patch, goaltending injuries, goaltending struggles, defensive struggles, and they beat a very good LA team to get off the schneid, get back in the win column. We'll see if they carry that over. Sometimes, especially with the really good teams like a Vegas, when they have the win that snaps the long losing streak and the funk, sometimes you see that team kind of go on a run. So I don't know if I'd be interested in Seattle here. But Seattle and the home teams for these outdoor events are going to always be amped up for them, and want to get a victory in front of the massive crowd that they're going to see for this game. It's going to be interesting to see the weather here for this event, but that's always something you want to have in the back of your mind. It looks like the plan is to play, by the way, for the roof to be open, of course, for the Winter Classic at T-Mobile Park, which is interesting to see. It looks like in terms of the weather right now, it's going to be not bad. You're always worried about, will it be, you don't want it to be obviously very mild, because then you worry about the ice deteriorating, which you don't want. Nobody wants that. There's no question. But it looks like, as far as tomorrow is concerned, 7 degrees, and that's Fahrenheit. So it looks like we're going to be fine. As far as, or 7, is that Celsius or
no?
Fahrenheit?
It's Celsius. 45 degrees Fahrenheit tomorrow. No wind, no precipitation.
Yeah. I forget when I go to weather.com, which is what I've done here, which is an American site, by the way. It's the Weather Channel. But they put, because they know I'm on the site from a Canadian IP address, so they automatically convert the temperature readings to Celsius because I'm in Canada. So it's 45 degrees. So that is obviously above freezing, but I don't think it's going to be so mild that the ice is going to be terrible condition. Not ideal, but I don't think it's going to be absolutely the worst ice conditions possible. Plus, they've done these Winter Classic games enough now where the ice makers, they are on top of this stuff. They can, make sure they stop the game briefly to make sure they, flood the ice again and all that to try to keep it in as good shape throughout the course of the game as possible. And the good news is, I believe it's going to be overcast tomorrow. Yes, overcast, foggy, not much sunshine in the forecast. So it looks like that's going to help. That's the worst thing, above freezing temperatures and then the sun being out, and it's noon local time, this game. So that's right where if the sun's out, it's right there in the middle of the sky, and it could really be a detrimental to the ice conditions. So It doesn't look like it's going to be that bad. This is one where I'd lean draw, quite honestly. How can I not? It's a winter. I feel like we see a lot of overtime in close games in the Winter Classic. I really do. So to me, I don't think I'm going to be doing much as far as sides and totals other than looking at maybe at the draw, a competitive game. I could see that. Seattle's been a team that's played nothing, Alex, but close games lately. Look at this Seattle team. 3-2 in a shootout with LA, 4-3 in overtime against Dallas, 2-1 regulation with LA, 3-2 Anaheim regulation, 2-1 Calgary regulation, and then the 2-1 overtime game with Philly the other night. So even the non-overtime shootout games for Seattle, they've been 1-goal games. All right, so that is a high probability for the draw. This team has played 6 straight 1-goal games going into this Winter Classic on Monday. So that's the easy choice for me. If you got to have action on this game, to me, the draw is the clear choice with Vegas and Seattle. Alex, what do you think here? New Year's Day, Winter Classic, Golden Knights, Kraken.
So I was doing a little handicapping this morning, looking, like I said, at kind of the situation of T-Mobile Park, and shade shouldn't be an issue because, like I said, this is a 12 o'clock start. The shade and shadows only really become a problem if this game were to go late, say like 3:30, which I can't imagine it would be a 3-hour contest. So shouldn't be any issues with sight lines, shouldn't be really any issues with ice conditions. Like I said, 43 to 45 degrees. You know, you got everything refrigerated, and the way that they got all that kind of insulated setup, I don't think this should be a game where we don't even have to see the team swap ends. This should be a fairly clean game. So with that being said, I like the first period over. We've seen this cash in 3 of the last four Winter Classics. We've also seen this cash in 7 of the last 9 meetings between these two teams. So I'm going first period over. Maybe a small sprinkle on both teams to score, but I got to wait till tomorrow to actually make that bet. And the draw, like you said, Seattle's been one of those teams right now that have been playing these close games. And, with the Golden Knights kind of just, I just don't see where, okay, I think, both teams are going to be jazzed up, playing in their outdoor contests and stuff. Vegas has already kind of done this before, except the whole, people mentioned in the chat, the 10-hour Lake Tahoe game, of course. But won't be anything of that sort for sure. So I think this is going to be just kind of a standard hockey game. I don't think the Winter Classic atmosphere, I don't think it's going to be as prevalent or as heavy or as weighing on the actual on-ice performance like it's been in recent years, because it is essentially a dome. And it's a well-shaded place. Like I said, the elements shouldn't cause too much of an issue here. So it should be a fun game, a great game to attend. I certainly would rather go to that than 3 years ago, the one that they had here in Minneapolis where it was like 30 below. So people should get their money's worth out of that. But I think it's going to be a good game, and I think it's going to go past 60 minutes. So I am on the draw, but I do think we get that first period over cash as well. You can lay it at $1.25 right now at Caesars.
All right, so draw and Alex liking the first period over as well. Monday afternoon, TNT, Vegas and Seattle, the NHL Winter Classic. It doesn't have the same pop and novelty that it used to, the Winter Classic. Not anymore with any of the outdoor games, quite honestly, but that's still something that's fun. We'll tune in. It's lost a little of that pizzazz from the very first time they did it way back, 2006 or 7, I think, is when it started.
It was 08 Pittsburgh Buffalo was the first one. And I think they just need to get rid of the actual like Winter Classic concept. Like, let the Winter Wonderland shit, let's just take that out. Let's just make outdoor games. And now let's do some fun stuff. Like, let's have outdoor games in domed venues. Let's have, and I know that defeats the purpose where you're still indoors, but I mean, let's take it to some different venues and different things. It doesn't necessarily have to be outside. It doesn't necessarily have to be the freezing cold weather. I would love to see some games in like Mexico City or different things like that. I would like to see, if we're going to do the international thing, let's do something like the NFL and kind of vary up where you're having the games moving forward. Like I said, I know this was a great start and concept, and it led to the explosion of outdoor games. But I think, it's time for a change up. Having the whole snowy, whatever, like I said, that kind of like, Christmas, winter setup. We don't always need to have that. I like how the stadium series, what was it, Dodger Stadium a few years ago? That was a pretty cool concept. We should get back to things like that as far as these outdoor games concerned. If we're going to keep having them, let's change it up a little bit.
Yeah, I agree. I think, you can, the Winter Classic attachment to that moniker to this game doesn't need to be there.
Bankroll Spence has it perfectly in his comment. Hockey in Hawaii. Why not have a game in Hawaii or some different locales? And it's Alaska. Have an outdoor game in Alaska with the big mountain strip backdrop. Do some cool shit like that rather than just having, we're going to a baseball stadium, we're going to a football stadium. Like let's mix it up a little bit.
I also heard NHL is piggybacking the NFL and that they do have interest in Mexico at one point to do a game down there. So
That'd be sweet.
Yeah, that would be interesting. So there you go.
Yeah,
Expand the
a
game.
ECHL team down there for the Stars franchise would be really cool too. I've been saying that for a long time.
And I love that they do the global series. Like that was a great job putting the games in Sweden earlier this year.
That ended up being pretty cool. That was cooler than some of the other European games at the beginning of the year in previous seasons. I agree.
Yeah, exactly. And all the Swedish legends were there too. Forsberg was there. Lundqvist was there. Matt Sundin. You go on down the list. They were all there. Alfredson, of course, because he had to work as well. You remember he was a guest coach there for the Senators. So, no, it was a great event there. And you're right. Matthews has Mexican descent, Mike. But yeah, absolutely he does. And like I say, and it's funny because of Las Vegas. It's funny. You talk about the Golden Knights. It's a great segue. There's a lot of Latino, Mexican, heritage and people there in the state of Nevada and especially Las Vegas. And if you speak to a lot of them in Vegas, since the Golden Knights got there, they've really become huge hockey fans. So it fits perfectly with that thought.
You could easily have Kings, Stars, Coyotes, and then you could take a Leafs team, like I said, with Austin Matthews. You could have a team like New Jersey who had Scott Gomez and Bill Guerin, two Hispanic descent players. And make that just like you did with the Swedish thing. You had all those teams that had tons of Swedish players, had Swedish history like Ottawa, Detroit, Minnesota. So I think that would be a really cool concept.
Yeah. I think they just announced on Fox that the UFL, the merger. It's the merger of the XFL and the USFL. The UFL, it's in March. There you go. They're
Arena football comes back this spring too.
There you go. So spring football lives. I don't know for how much longer, but it's at least going to live for another year.
One more year.
One more year at least, 2024. And speaking of 2024, it's just hours away from us. Actually, a couple of props I'll throw out there. Thomas Tatar, we've talked about him. He's on the top line, or he was. He's actually been bumped down. It's Alex Wenberg's up on the top line, and Tanev too. So Wenberg and Tanev might be worth a look for Seattle in this game. For Vegas, he's rolling on the top line right now as far as not so much goals, but points and assists as well. Close shave. Ivan Barbashev has been really good lately for the Vegas Golden Knights. And Michael Amadio scored the other night, playing with Stevenson and Dorofeev. He's had very noticeable chances the last few games. So maybe a little sleeper prop as well with Amadio for Vegas in that Winter Classic on Monday. All right, great stuff. We hope you enjoyed this Sunday New Year's Eve edition of the show, our final show of 2023. Shout out to everyone in the chat. Hit the like button if you haven't done so already. And man, what a month it has been for people joining us over on Patreon. Patreon.com/Ice Guys, just $10 per month. And we thank you so much. Exclusive content, goalie charts, totals charts, and more. We've got the daily card, of course, sides, totals, player props every single day posted there for Patreon members. And stay tuned in the new year. We've got bonus videos. We're going to start getting into those more Q&A bonus videos from Alex and I, theme videos, favorite goal song, favorite team from the 70s, favorite player from a certain deck. We got tons of ideas in mind for theme videos that we're going to be doing exclusively on Patreon. And of course, we're going to announce our main January betcast date next week, or this week coming up. But we're also going to start to put together plans for our bonus betcasts for our Patreon members in January. We'll certainly do at least one. And I think we're going to make it an impromptu one. We're not going to announce when. We're just going to drop it on you and say, whoop, wow, all of a sudden, look at this. It's a live betcast with Alex and Ian tonight. Holy mackerel. And that will be when you least expect it. And we'll do it on a weeknight at some point in the month of January. It'll be an impromptu bonus betcast. It will only be viewable if you're a Patreon member. It will only be available to join us on the stream to those of you that are a Patreon member. So make sure you stay tuned for that as well. So patreon.com/Ice Guys, just $10 a month. And again, as I mentioned in our Merry Christmas message to our Patreon members, the dollars you commit on Patreon help us out because it helps us keep this show going for not only next year, but years and years beyond that. That's what we're here for. We've talked about this. We envision maybe still doing this damn show in 5 years, 10 years from now, maybe. We've got those visions. Why not? I'm certainly not going to be doing another job. I'm not quitting sports betting and sports, and not now, not when I've been in it now for 13 years to become a doctor or something. That's not happening. It's without my capacity. I'm in this for basically, this is my career, barring some incredible opportunity that I can't pass up. This is my career for the next rest of my life. So that is why I'm doing content and handicapping. So we expect to be doing this show for years to come, but you guys supporting us on Patreon and just your $10 a month contribution will help us immensely to keep us going for these next 2, 3, 5, 10 years, however long it is. So patreon.com/Ice Guys, just $10 a month. Make sure you get on board with that just in time for the new year. And of course, check out the Ice Guys store, new merch, new gear there, iceguys.myspreadshop.com.
Yeah, we got a bunch of new stuff, all the new draw season merch, the Tylander merch. We've got the regular caps and hoodies. We've got everything up right now, iceguys.myspreadshop.com. And, of course, into the new year, we'll be back with the coupon codes. They disabled most of those for December, but the coupons and the savings will be back in January and beyond, and we're going to have some more new merch as well. Also, check out the limited edition store. Some of those items in that limited edition store, which that link is tagged on our X page at _Ice Guys. Some of those will be going away by the All-Star break. So you'll only have about maybe 3 or 4 or 5 weeks to grab. If you haven't grabbed the Skinner t-shirt yet, or the Bet Hockey and Sleep When You're Dead shirt, some of those will be going away in February. So you got a month left to grab some of those items at the limited edition store. But also check out the flagship store as well, iceguys.myspreadshop.com.
Absolutely. Go get that. Again, sign up on Patreon and check out the store as well going into the new year. All right, it is time for our bargain bin special of the night. And, man, we have a lot to live up to because it was a 2-0 sweep yesterday. Luke Hughes, New Jersey Devils, plus 750 for me. And it was Michael Bunting at plus 350 for the Carolina Hurricanes for Zach Urban with his bargain bin special of the night on our Saturday show. So, got a lot to live up to. Alex, what have you got for your final bargain bin special for 2023?
Yeah, so we're going right back to Dallas. We are picking a Chicago player, but it's not my mom's pick of Nick Foligno. We are going with a second-line guy. We're going Jason Dickinson. You can get him at plus 480 at FanDuel. I don't even know why this price is still so high. This is a guy who's been really hot right now. And, he's just always in front of the net. And that's the thing, we look for. The same thing with Foligno, net front presence. And it's great to see that with the Hawks because that's something we hadn't seen in quite some time. But you got guys that crashed in front of the net, put themselves in good positions and find ways to get the puck in the net. And I think the Trooper can do that. So let's go Jason Dickinson plus 480 at FanDuel. That's my bargain bin special. My last bargain bin special for 2023.
There you go, plus 480 on Jason Dickinson. A terrific price there as far as a bargain bin special for this Sunday and for this Sunday NHL card, this final card of New Year's Eve. For my bargain bin special of the night, well, I guess you could call it bargain bin special of the day or of the afternoon, because I'm going to the very first game of this Sunday slate, Winnipeg Jets, Minnesota Wild. And we're riding the wave. We mentioned it. I mentioned it earlier in the show. He is a very, very streaky player when it comes to offense and goal scoring. He can go games on end, weeks on end without scoring. And then all of a sudden he gets in one of these zones and he's just scoring every night. And he's in one of those right now. Goals in 4 straight games for the Minnesota Wild. And I cashed a goal prop on him yesterday. Ryan Hartman for the Minnesota Wild plus 350 at Patano for my bargain bin special of the night. And I'll give you a bonus one. I know Alex did this before when he gave one out for an early game. I'll give you one from one of the later games too. I'll give you 2. It's New Year's Eve. Why not? I'm generous here. We'll give you Ryan Hartman plus 350 for the Minnesota Wild for my first bargain bin, and then one from one of the evening games tonight. And he also cashed for me yesterday with a goal prop, and he's still a great price tonight, plus 340 at FanDuel. Jack Quinn, Buffalo Sabres, plus 340. So there you go. 2 bargain bin specials for me. Ryan Hartman, Minnesota Wild, plus 350. Jack Quinn, Buffalo Sabres, plus 340 for my 2 bargain bin specials for this final show of 2023. All right, best bets. Final best bets of 2023. Alex, what do you like for best bet?
Yeah, we're going to Steel City for this one. Pittsburgh, New York Islanders. Except the Islanders, they got to come out hot and heavy after getting embarrassed with the Penguins putting the touchdown on them. So I like them in the first period. Give me the puck line, laying the half a goal, plus 175. I found at BetMGM on the Islanders in the first period puck line. that is my final best bet for 2023.
There you go. Islanders first period puck line plus 170 range with that best bet for Alex B. Smith. My best bet for this Sunday card. It's an interesting card. Lots to choose from. I'm going to go with the. It's a good choice here. I'm going to go with that. I really like it, and I love the price. Let's go for a big score. I'm being bold here for the final show of 2023. Let's go with Colorado Avalanche team total over 1.5 first period plus 170. I love that price. I think they scored 3 the last time they hosted San Jose in the first period in that 6-2 win. San Jose's given up goals in bunches, especially early in the game. Avalanche at home better than on the road. Let's rock with that. Colorado over 1.5 plus 170 first period team total for my best bet here for the final best bet of 2023 on this New Year's Eve Sunday edition of the Ice Guys. All right, before we wrap it up, another year in the books and another year where I find this show has gotten stronger. Our audience base has grown incredibly a lot, and we thank you immensely for it. We feel we were a year better in what we gave you on this show in terms of the format. We introduced the Bargain Bin Special segment this year and what a hit that's been. We feel we're getting better in this role, on doing this show, doing this gig every day. We feel you guys are getting stronger and better because our base is growing, our family is growing, our audience and our viewership and our listenership is growing. We've got more Patreon members. We're going to give you more bonus content. We gave you a lot more bonus content this year, player suite interviews. We're going to get those going again in the off season next year. Those will be exclusive to Patreon. More exclusive content for those Patreon members that are really pouring in their dollars to support this show. Is on the way in the new year. That's going to be stronger. We're going to be, we think, even stronger and better, Alex and I, in this role. And we hope you guys will continue to show it with your increased viewership, listenership, and just support of this show, which already, for those of you that have been with us for a year, if not years, has been incredible. So we thank you for another great year of doing this show, and let's make it an even better one coming up in 2024. Alex, final words before we wrap up for the final time this year.
Yeah, there's plenty of podcasts in the hockey and gambling world that you guys could go to and check out. But we're so grateful you come to check us out every single day that we're on. And it's just fantastic. Like I said, the love and support. Like I said, we're all growing together with this. You know, the fact that when we come on the air, we're already seeing 5, 10 minutes, 15 minutes before the show, people in the chat interacting and talking and sharing their opinions. And it's the coolest thing to see. And, people are predicting our plays before we even give them out, so you guys have really been super supportive. And
they know us well.
Yeah. We call it an Ice Guys family for a reason because, we've all gotten to know each other and grow with each other. And it's fantastic. It's a wonderful thing. And so looking forward, like I said, we want to keep this thing rocking till the wheels fall off. And, with your guys' support, we can keep the lights on and get things rolling and keep bringing you, like I said, all the content. We work for you guys. So we bring you guys all the content. We do our best to bring you the winners each and every day. And we appreciate the support and the love most definitely. So thank you. And let's rock it into 2024.
And that's what we plan on doing. Absolutely. And with that in mind, we are wrapping it up for the very final time here in 2023. And now you love when a plan comes together. We started this show an hour earlier so that we could be done in time for the NFL, and we will be. So you just love it when a plan comes together like that. Great stuff. Shout out to everyone one more time. We appreciate and love you guys so much for your support of this show. It means everything to us. We can't do it without you. It's that simple. A reminder, the Ice Guys is live 7 days a week, Monday to Friday, 2 p.m. Eastern, Saturday and Sunday, noon Eastern. And if you can't watch the show live, download the Ice Guys podcast in audio form on all major podcast platforms, Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, iHeartRadio, Amazon Music, and more. Download the Ice Guys podcast when you can't watch the show live. Another year in the books for Alex B. Smith. I'm Ian Cameron. Happy New Year. Enjoy the night. Stay safe. Party it up, but stay safe. Be smart.
Yes.
And make sure you're back with us on Tuesday. Remember, we're off tomorrow. We are back on Tuesday, 2 p.m. Eastern, for our first Ice Guys show of 2024. Looking forward to that. Until then, Happy New Year, everybody. See ya on the other side.